Buddhism is an ancient tradition with answers to life's biggest questions today. Why do we suffer? How do we relate to other beings? And how do we make the world a happier and more peaceful place for everyone? Our mission at BDK America is to help people understand Buddhism better. Are you looking to start learning about Buddhism or dig deeper? BDK America offers free books and videos for peoples of all ages and levels. Our most popular book, The Teaching of Buddha, is available to read in English and 46 other languages in physical, PDF, and audiobook formats. Visit our website for our latest publications and order your own free copy today.
Hello, we're glad you could join us again. And for those of you watching us for the first time, welcome. Among the teachings of the Buddha, the most basic is the Four Noble Truths. They were the main topic of his first sermon, which he delivered to the 5 Mendicant monks with whom he had once trained together during the 6 years of his ascetic life. And we are told that after hearing the Buddha's sermon, all 5 monks attained full awakening then and there. So in essence, the Four Noble Truths were the very teachings that led to the first awakening of his first disciples. Moreover, I feel that for people in the West being introduced to Buddhism, the Four Noble Truths offer a bird's eye view and a comprehensive framework for better understanding the Buddha's teachings. In short, it's a great place to start. Let's then look at what the Four Noble Truths are. They are traditionally stated as the first truth of suffering, the second truth of the cause of suffering, the third truth of cessation, the fourth truth of the path. I would like to restate these truths in more everyday terms that are easier to understand. First truth: we all experience suffering. Second truth: suffering is caused by greed, hatred, and ignorance. Third truth: there is a state of awakening where suffering ceases. Fourth truth: there is a path for realizing awakening. Now, I would like to discuss the first truth. We all experience suffering. The Buddha specified 8 kinds of suffering. They are 1. Birth, 2. Aging, 3. Illness, 4. Death, 5. Having to face what one does not like, 6. Having to separate from what one likes, 7. Not getting what one wants, and 8. Attachment to the 5 physical, psychological components that make up one's own experience. If these do not make sense right now, don't worry, because I will explain each of them in later shows. However, I believe that 3 of these are quite clear, for if you were with us during our previous shows, we learned that it was seeing an old person, a sick person, and a deceased person that shocked and motivated Prince Siddhartha to go forth and seek the spiritual path. At the same time, in terms of the first noble truth, we all experience suffering. Perhaps I need to clarify a few points. Suffering here refers to a person's response to a condition and not on the conditions themselves that lead to suffering. For example, getting old is simply a condition. The Buddha is not bothered by it all. But many ordinary people fret and worry about it, so they suffer from aging. Suffering is thus their response to a condition. Conversely, suffering for the Buddha had to do more with the inner dimensions of our experience, particularly in relation to existential difficulties or conditions, such as illness, aging, and death, rather than suffering caused by social conditions or natural disasters. Though having said that, if the Buddha were alive, just like everyone else, he would be horrified and saddened by the catastrophic earthquake and subsequent tsunamis that occurred in December of 2004. This is not to say that the Buddha would be uncaring, but rather his enormous capacity for compassion for others would be directed in words and deeds to all the victims. He would not be indifferent to their pain and sorrow, just as when he spoke out against the tyranny of the caste system of his day. So, how is this first truth related to the second? The second truth is that suffering is caused by greed, hatred, and ignorance. Greed, hatred, and ignorance, which are sometimes referred to as the three poisons, are the cause or reasons for our suffering. For example, the prince, before he became the Buddha, experienced extreme pain, shock, and suffering upon witnessing a deceased person. And his response was rooted in his desire, or greed, to want to live, or in his own words, due to his thirst for existence. And this was compounded by his ignorance about the truth of impermanence. That is, that everything, including our physical body, is subject to change. Now, we can certainly empathize with him, for this desire to live is universal and is a powerful drive in virtually all of us. But however common and universal the thirst for life is, it is still greed nevertheless. This truth discovered by the Buddha will probably be hard to swallow. It certainly was for me when I was rudely awakened in my early teens upon realizing that we all have to die eventually. Now, let's move to the third truth of cessation, in which there is a state of awakening whereby suffering ceases. This is a state realized by the Buddha under the Bodhi tree and is also known as nirvana. I'm sure that nirvana is a term that many of you have heard, for it's become part of the English language used to express a sense of extreme happiness, bliss, freedom, and or liberation. This awakening or nirvana is attained by consummating the fourth truth, which is that there is a way for realizing awakening. The way is called Eightfold Noble Path. Specifically, these 8 aspects of the path are right view, right thought, right speech, right conduct, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. We shall return in later shows to explore each of these in greater depth, but for now, they impart a sense of what is required in order to attain awakening. So between the fourth and the third truth, there also exists a cause and effect relationship. By practicing the Eightfold Noble Path, the fourth truth, one can achieve nirvana or awakening, the third truth, when suffering ends. Taking this concept one step further, the Four Noble Truths are comprised of 2 cause and effect relationships. More specifically, the second truth, cause of suffering, is a cause of the first truth, suffering. And the fourth truth, path, is a cause of the third truth, cessation. And most importantly, when the third truth, cessation or awakening, is attained, the first truth, suffering, ceases or is lessened. When we evaluate the Four Noble Truths, they are empirically and logically based. They do not require us to believe in something that we cannot experience in our lives. They note the fact that we experience suffering, and then proceed to identify their causes, and then they propose a path for us to think, speak, and act in the right way. When we practice them, we are then able to lower the level of our suffering as well as that of others. Now, let's see if we can bring the Four Noble Truths, especially the first two, to a level where even children can understand them. Many of you may be familiar with Aesop's famous fable of the greedy dog. Once upon a time, a hungry old dog saw a puppy carrying a juicy bone in its mouth. Wanting this bone, the greedy dog barked and growled until the poor puppy dropped the bone and ran away. The old dog carried the juicy bone to find a quiet place to eat. On his way, he walked over a bridge, and as he looked over the side of the bridge, he saw another dog with a bone in its mouth. Not realizing that what he saw was actually his own reflection, he wanted that bone and barked at the other dog. As he did, his own bone fell into the river, leaving the dog with no bone and hungry once again. Some of you may be saying to yourselves, "What a stupid, greedy dog." But are we so different? Don't we sometimes find ourselves in the same situation? Aren't we swept away by our greed for more and more things? As a result, we become overburdened with huge debts that put undue pressure on our family and force us to overwork. There isn't enough time to spend with our families and friends. Or such a stressful life can take a toll on our mind and body. An expression I came upon 10 years ago among the graffiti scribbled on the walls of a public restroom read, "Difficulties are inevitable, but suffering is optional." Whether you suffer or not is up to each of us. As you go through your own daily life, please keep this in mind. We look forward to having you join us next week when we invite a guest to discuss some of the subtleties of the Four Noble Truths.
We at Bukkyo Dendo Kyokai pursue peace and happiness for people around the world. We have published the Buddhist teachings into 41 languages and donated our publication to hotels and other facilities in 55 countries. We would like to share the Buddhist teachings with people around the world. That's our mission. Visit our website for more information.